Welcome everybody who's joining our webinar session this afternoon in Israel and morning in the US. We're just waiting on a few more participants to connect, and we'll start in a few minutes. Thank you. Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to TAU International's first kickoff event of the year as we open our application seasons for 2022-23. My name is Orit Cody, and I'm the Marketing Director at TAU International. Thank you for joining us today to learn what it takes to be a truly global citizen. Having grown up myself in the US to Israeli parents, studied abroad, traveled a great deal, and living in Israel today, I'm certain, like myself, that the topic of what makes a person global resonates with many of you. But what does being a global citizen actually mean? Especially in complicated times like today. With advanced technologies, digital interconnectedness, and the backdrop of COVID-19, the topic of global citizenship will always be relevant and yet will always be shifting in meaning. So what does being a global citizen actually mean? Speakers, which are here to help us better understand this timely technologies, topic, digital interconnectedness, will touch on an array of examples related to global citizenry, academia, entrepreneurship, and policy making. These speakers are Professor Milet Shamir, Vice President at Tel Aviv University, and two of our reputable Tel Aviv University alums, Ms. Tzipi Ozer Almon, CEO of Luminous, and NYU's Global Distinguished Professor, Ido Aharoni. Following their presentations, Mr. David Ryan, TAU's Global Outreach and Recruitment Coordinator, will give you a quick intro into Tel Aviv University and how our students experience a truly global education here. At the end of David's session, you're welcome to ask David any questions using the Q&A feature on your Zoom view. I think without any further ado, I'd like to begin by introducing TAU's Vice President for Academic International Affairs, Professor Milet Shamil. Say hello, Milet. Milet is a researcher in the field of American Studies at TAU's Humanities faculty. She joined Tel Aviv in 1998 after earning her PhD from Brandeis University. Milet co-founded TAU's American Studies program in 2006, serving as its head for 13 years. From 2015 to 2019, Shamir served as Vice Dean of Humanities for Academic Affairs. And close to a decade ago, she pioneered TAU's BA in the Liberal Arts program, geared for international students. Beyond this liberal arts degree, Milet's talk will also hold a nice surprise about our newest program, an International BA in Management and Liberal Arts for undergraduate students. So Milet, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Orit. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thanks for asking me to speak. And hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. My assumption is that many of you logged in today because the idea of getting an international education appeals to you or makes you curious. And so what I'd like to do in just around maybe 15 minutes is to tell you a little bit how we see the concept of international learning here at Tel Aviv University, and I think in many other research universities around the world, and to tell you why we think that it's not just important, but in many ways it's crucial for quality education and for preparedness for life today. I say today, but of course international education didn't start today. Historians tell us that international travel, international mobility have always been an important part of higher education. In fact, because I would say universities are first and foremost committed to exploration, to open pursuit of truth, to the free circulation of knowledge. They've had international travel and mobility built into their very DNA from the decades that they started many, many years ago. Universities have always depended on their students and faculty traveling from place to place and crossing national borders in search of new knowledge. Fun fact, we know who the very first international student in the world was. His name was Emo of Friesland. He traveled from Northern Holland to study at Oxford University in 1190. So in the 12th century, we already had students who traveled to get their education. Since I'm a professor of English literature and American studies, my favorite international student is, of course, Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet, the Danish prince who attended school in Germany at the time in which his father was killed by his uncle, who then married his mother, and the rest of the story you, of course, know. But even closer to our era, think of all the great leaders around the world who've had international education as a very important and forming experience in turning them into the leaders that they became, including Mahatma Gandhi, including Bill Clinton, Shinzo Abe, Barack Obama, right? All of these leaders credited their education in international institutions for making them who they eventually became. So international learning has always been very, very important. But it's also true that it's only in the past 20 years or so that international education really picked up pace and became a central feature of most research universities around the world. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I won't go into them, but a lot of things happened in the 90s that meant that international education and especially study abroad programs became very, very dominant. We can think about the collapse of the USSR, the raising of the Iron Curtain, the strengthening of the EU in the 90s, the digital revolution that suddenly connected people across national borders, economic globalization, right? All these factors came together to create a new era in higher education that puts a lot of stress on student mobility and on student getting an international form of learning as part of their education. So the statistics are that between the year 2000 and 2017, study abroad programs grew by 150% and really became a feature in almost every university you can think of, including Tel Aviv University. We have a large and very successful study abroad program that we're very proud of. But I'd like to kind of add another layer to that and to say that while study abroad is a great format for international education, it's also not perfect, right? We can't settle only for study abroad programs to provide students with that extra dimension in their learning. Why? Because very often study abroad programs don't provide students with the full immersive experience of being abroad. A lot of study abroad programs tend to put their visiting students in a kind of a bubble where they're sometimes very, very happy to be away from home and learning new things, but also not quite integrated into the culture to which they traveled. And there's also a problem with study abroad that it's not for everybody. Study abroad is a program that is most available to students of privileged backgrounds. Usually study abroad programs go from wealthier countries to less wealthy ones. It is students in the wealthiest countries that get to go to other countries more than anybody else. Students with an advantageous economic background tend to be able to take advantages of study abroad programs more than students without these advantages. These programs are expensive. Let me give you the example of Israeli students, for example. Only a very small percentage of Israeli students at Tel Aviv actually get to take part of study abroad programs or exchange programs because Israeli students are a little older, they have jobs, they often don't have a lot of extra money for their education. So it's difficult for them to get up and leave Tel Aviv University and go for a semester somewhere else. And so we at Tel Aviv University understood that while study abroad is a very important platform, it's also crucial for us to widen opportunities for international education in new ways, to think beyond study abroad in order to provide students the international education that we think they need as part of their training. So what have we been doing? Like many other schools, we've been developing many full degree international programs on the BA level, on the MA level, programs that bring students from all around the world to Tel Aviv to sit in a classroom with Israeli students, in many cases, and get a full immersive experience of studying for a full degree here in Israel. We think that that is a much more meaningful experience in terms of international education than simply a semester abroad. And of course, what it does is that it brings Israeli students who can't go out of the country to travel abroad for their education in contact with international students here on campus. So you'll be hearing a lot, I think, from David later on about the range of international programs that we offer here, but that's certainly a platform that we very much believe in. We also believe in dual degree programs, right? In the idea that you can have a degree that is divided between two institutions in two different countries. So at Tel Aviv University, we have, for example, a BA in liberal arts, where you study for 2 years at Tel Aviv University and 2 years at Columbia University in New York and get the best of both these worlds. And we have other dual degree programs in management with Peking University, in law with Berkeley and with Northwestern. In the social sciences, we just opened a new collaborative degree with Johns Hopkins, and the list goes on. And another platform that we've been using, especially in the past year, in order to create more opportunities for international education is what's called now virtual mobility, right? So what we do is we use Zoom and other digital platforms that we've learned to use so well during the COVID-19 crisis in order to bring together classrooms from Tel Aviv and another country. So we have a lot of these joint courses that take place on Zoom now and are super interesting and a very, very fulfilling learning experience for the students. To give you an example, we have a class in social work that takes place both here at Tel Aviv and simultaneously in a German university, which is about refugees. So the students get to compare the treatment of refugees in Tel Aviv with the treatment of refugees in Germany, and a lot of interesting discussion evolves around this comparison. We have a course in engineering that's about water technologies, where students at Tel Aviv sit together in a virtual classroom with students from UC Irvine in California and think about new technologies for pure water creation given that both Israel, as you know, and California are places where the shortage of water is a real dilemma and a real challenge. So this platform of virtual mobility is something that we believe in very much as well. But I want to backtrack for a minute, and in the remaining 5 minutes that I have, I want us to kind of think together for a moment on why we think it is important for you to have significant international components in your degree. That is, why bother? Why create all these platforms for international education? Why is it important? So what I want to do is I want to quickly suggest to you 3 reasons why international education is so crucial today. The first reason has to do with student intellectual development and student development as thinkers and as creators of new ideas. In other words, with the quality of the learning that you get. I'm told oftentimes from my colleagues who are in the sciences and have international labs, right? Labs where international students sit together, that they cannot hope for out-of-the-box thinking and kind of innovative solutions to scientific problems if they don't have a diverse international group of research students sitting in the lab. So you can have a wonderful lab experience with only Israeli students, but you're going to come up with much better and more interesting ideas if the Israeli students are joined by German students and Brazilian students and Argentinian students and Indian students. And that's true also, I think, outside of the sciences and kind of the labs. Classrooms that are international are classrooms that are bound to be places where creativity explodes. I'll give you 2 quick examples from our international programs. One of our most popular international MA programs is our program in conflict resolution. And you can see why students from all over the world want to come to Israel to study conflict resolution, because sadly, Israel has been immersed in conflict now for many, many years. It's one of the most conflict-ridden regions in the world. So it makes sense to come here and study this topic. But what if, in addition to the Israeli professors and the Israeli students next to you in class, you also had a student sitting there from Venezuela who's been experiencing kind of a growing situation of political discontent and economic crisis in her own home. And another student who grew up, say, in the former Yugoslavia, right, in the shadow of the wars there. This is already to create a frame for the discussion that is much richer, much more nuanced, much more sophisticated, and much better recipe for thinking about conflict resolution than simply just thinking about it in the local context of Israel. Or to give you another example, one of our most popular classes in the liberal arts program, a lot of students there major in psychology, and one of the best classes that we offer in psychology is in positive psychology, which is really about the question of what is happiness. Now, imagine that in a classroom, you only have American students or Israeli students discussing the question of happiness. They would probably assume that they know what happiness is and what it means. And, in the American tradition, happiness is associated very closely with personal achievement, with individual achievement, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what if in the same classroom sat someone from, say, Japan, where happiness is much more closely associated with social harmony and not with individual achievement? And where happiness is very often expressed not by excitement and enthusiasm, like in America or in Israel, but by being very calm, right? So this kind of combination of people within the classroom, I think very often forces our students to rethink the very premise of the discussions that we're having. And again, it's really a recipe for creativity. So that's the first reason. The second reason why I think international learning is crucial, it's because on the personal level, I think it's crucial for careers in today's global world. And I'm sure I'm not going to be the only person who would say that in our panel today. There's a large consensus today that spending time abroad during your studies is very beneficial to your long-term goals. Not only does studying abroad or studying in an international setting contribute to intellectual development, as I've just argued, but after graduating from a degree that has an international component, your employability and your earnings very often are enhanced, are elevated, right? So students of international programs, because they acquire a very wide range of soft skills like intercultural competence, global awareness, second language skills, third language skills, these soft skills help them successfully compete in the job market today. And that, all research shows that. Many companies are interested in graduates with international education, and many companies sometimes screen job applicants on the basis of whether they've had an international education or not. And here, we can bring in what Orit promised before, and that is the surprise new program that we are launching. I do want to say a word about that. Today, we are announcing right now the launching of a new program in management, entrepreneurship, and liberal arts on the BA level. Of course, we have a very well-established MBA, global MBA program about which you'll be able to hear later on today. But we have a new BA program that combines management, entrepreneurial skills, and liberal arts. And the idea here is exactly to create these three sets of skills that are so important in today's market today, right? On the one hand, the professional skills of management. As a second level, you have the major in humanities and social sciences like philosophy, psychology, communications, literature, you name it, which gives you those soft skills that are so sought after in today's world of employment. And finally, it is also an international program, which brings in this added benefit, and also, of course, your ability to link with people from all over the world who will then serve as your network after graduation as you go on to become a successful entrepreneur. Right, so I'm very excited about this new program. I think it's going to have kind of tremendous potential and produce really, really strong graduates from our university. Okay, and just to finish off, I'll say what the third reason is, I think, for an international education. I think that beyond the intellectual benefits, beyond the personal benefits of getting an international education, an international education has become more important than ever in a world that we've learned so clearly in the past 2 years has really changed in the sense that there is much more awareness, I think, among all of us in the post-COVID-19 era of the profound and important interconnectedness of all human beings around the world. So the argument that I'm making here is an ethical argument, right? I think that what we've learned now with COVID-19 is how we share our common vulnerability, no matter what our national origins are. I think it's not a surprise that the climate change discourse is picking up pace so quickly now, because part of what COVID-19 has also illustrated for us, kind of taught us on a daily basis, is this lesson in interconnectedness, which is so important also for our dealing with climate change and with environmental challenges of all kinds. And I think that in the world of today and the world of tomorrow is a world where this recognition of our commonalities and our responsibilities, the responsibilities that we have that grow out of these recognition of our common humanness or common vulnerabilities, that is going to be increasingly part of what we do also in higher education. And again, I can kind of turn to our international programs to illustrate that, right? We have a successful MA in environmental studies that looks at Israel as its main case study, but also recognizes that if we don't talk about Israel as part of the region in which it exists, none of the environmental issues that we're discussing mean anything, because environmental challenges don't recognize international borders. So it's a very internationally minded program that we have in environmental studies. We have a program in sustainable development, right, where the premise is that you learn by doing, by direct experience. And what students do is that, it's an international group of students who come up with social and technological solutions to sustainability challenges. But then they go and they spend 2 to 4 months either in the periphery in Israel or in Tanzania or Rwanda or India, where they work on testing and implementing these ideas together with the local population. So it's a program that has built into it this notion of a global responsibility, something, again, that I believe will take more and more space in coming years in higher education. Okay, so in closing, I'll just say that I tried to explain very quickly why we here at Tel Aviv University value international education and creating global-minded individuals and graduates. I'll just say as a kind of the last sentence that it's also important for me to say what international education is not. Contrary to what some people may think or fear, training students to be globally minded does not mean encouraging them to give up their local or their national or their community identities or their identification with their own culture or with their own community or their patriotism in favor of some amorphous, universal, global identity. Quite on the contrary, we believe that the benefits of an international education are strongest when students come with a very firm understanding and appreciation of their own local cultures and identities and languages, and then meet and come together to exchange ideas and come up with creative solutions to today's biggest challenges. So be global, but as Shakespeare's Polonius told Hamlet, remember that international student from Denmark, to thy own self be true. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Milet. I have goosebumps. You took me back to my first year in college Shakespeare class, having heard that. First of all, I think you gave such wonderful, tangible examples of how Tel Aviv University's international approaches to learning and its diverse curricula can truly empower the global student. And we will definitely hear more about that later in David's closing. I will mention on the topic of careers and employability, it's worth mentioning that Tel Aviv University was recently ranked #1 in Israel on producing the most employable graduates. So that's also something to be proud of. And I think that's a great segue to come into our next speaker, which is our TAU alum, Ms. Tzipi Ozer-Almon, the CEO of Luminous. Luminous is a global leader in the field of minimally invasive clinical solutions. You'll hear more about that, the company in Tzipi's own words shortly. With 2 decades of experience in senior management positions, Tzipi is also a proud alum, having earned both her BA in economics and her MBA here in Tel Aviv. After joining Luminous in 2012, Tzipi's tenure led Luminous through comprehensive growth and profitability, reaching IPO status on the NASDAQ in 2014. And last year, Luminous was acquired for a mere $1.2 billion. We're very excited to have her. I will mention that beyond Tzipi's entrepreneurial success, we're lucky to have her star in one of TAU's recent videos. So stay tuned until the end and you can possibly spot her as a cameo. Welcome, Tzipi. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you, Milet, for the really enlightening presentation. Really enjoy that. So my name is Tzipi Ozer-Almon. I'm an alumni of the Tel Aviv University. I'm really excited to be here and to be invited to this panel, and to share with you my experience over the last 20-something years as I would say as kind of having a global career, and why I think it's so important, why I think that that Tel Aviv University is the right place actually to get all the right skills that are required for such a career. So maybe I'll start with a bit of describing kind of my career. I've graduated from the Tel Aviv University, as Orit said. I studied economics, and I followed by MBA. I specialized in finance and in marketing. And while I was studying, I already started working in management consulting, both in Israel and afterwards in London. I want to say, you know, kind of when I started working in London, that was actually it's 30 years ago. Okay, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I moved from Israel to London. And I remember that when I was interviewed with the management consulting firm, no one really knew Israel, no one knew Tel Aviv University, and so on. And the question that I was asked at the interviews was, okay, can you tell me, all right, you've studied MBA, can you name, which books you've read, what kind of case studies you've done? Have you done case studies in Tel Aviv universities? The reason I'm saying it is just to describe to you is, one, I've passed all the interviews with flying colors and was accepted to all the management consulting firm, which means that even at the time that no one gave value, or people didn't know what Tel Aviv University management program was at that time, the quality of the graduates in terms of their understanding and in terms of the graduates' ability to solve a case with flying colors was up to the roof, okay? That was already changed, because now I believe, and I see it all over the place, that the Tel Aviv University has added to its quality of education also an amazing brand name all over the place, okay? So if I look, kind of when I did my add-on education, whether it was with the Harvard Business School in the AMP, or whether I did Singularity, there was no one there, at the faculty that didn't know about the Tel Aviv University, or that didn't have a deep appreciation to the quality of the students that Tel Aviv University actually produces, okay? So I'm saying it that to let you know that from a business point of view, so that when, and also from an academic point of view, it is a well-regarded place. And I think, as Orit said, it was ranked as the number one, After kind of doing many years with management consulting, and I've moved to the industry. Started with the M System and SanDisk. So M System was a company that was later on, they are the inventor of the USB flash drive, the patent holder and the inventor. I was there for a few years managing that division. And then it was acquired by SanDisk. That was a company that was by far much bigger company. SanDisk is the company that invented the flash memory. Okay, so all the memory that you have in your phone and everything, SanDisk invented. I would share with you that when SanDisk, acquired M System was we were the small company. Okay, we were selling for a few hundreds of millions. SanDisk was selling for a few billions, okay? So they were at a factor of 10 times bigger than we were. But the amazing story was that Eli Harari, the founder of SanDisk, together with his management team, they have made a decision just before they've made the acquisition that they're gonna run the integration based on let the best one win. Okay, which means that if there is a head of sales here and a head of sales there, okay, even though that we were the kind of the one of the 10 company versus SanDisk, the one that will be the better candidate will take the job, okay? Now, I can share with you that the entire management of M System was Tel Aviv University graduates, okay? And I can share with you that after a year, most of SanDisk management was the historic M System team, okay? The reason I'm mentioning it is to kind of share with you on the quality of the education and on the ease of integration of people who graduated from Tel Aviv University to be working in international environment. So SanDisk it's a company, it's a California-based company founded there and operated there. A.T. Kearney was a company that was kind of, I belong to the London branch, okay, but it's an American company. And the reason I'm saying it is to share with you how easy it is, once you get the right education, to be moving and to be working in an environment that is totally different than yours, okay? following Sandist, I decided to move to Teva, which in Teva, actually, I was managing Teva Japan. All right, so I had thousands of people under me, all speaking Japanese, actually. Actually, I think maybe 2 or 3 people spoke English. I know it sounds that it cannot be heard of, but I was working with the 3 simultaneous translators that kind of translated the conversation. You would ask why 3? Because in Japan, a simultaneous translator is not allowed to translate more than 20 minutes at one time. So you have to do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. So it's 20 minutes work, 40 minutes, 40 minutes relaxation. So I had 3 ladies translating, the whole time. And basically, we managed to arrive in Japan also to a #1 position. Now, just think about it. I was moving to work from London, okay, from the UK, which at that time it was very kind of traditional, not as international as it is today. Then working for an American company, real tech, West Coast, then working for a traditional Japanese pharmaceutical, okay? And in all of these jobs, I managed to do really, really well, okay? So I'm trying to give you, it's a real rounded, it's not European, it's not American, it's not Asian. 9 years ago, I started my job at Luminis. I took a company that was, that required a transformation, okay, not to say restructuring, okay. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. It was valued at around $200 million at that time. 2 years later, I took it public for 450. 1 year later, I sold it for 550. Additional 3 years later, I sold it for 1.2 billion. And a year ago, I sold only a third for 1.1. So I took it from like $200 million valuation to something which is in the range of 3 to 4 billion in 9 years. I would just tell you that in Luminis, what is very, very special is that we have a huge activity in China. So that is something, totally different than what I've described to you. I know that some people think about China and Japan, they say Asia, but nothing, it's how can I say, except for pharmaceutical, that there are similarities because of but otherwise, this is totally different culture. I don't know if some of you do follow, the consumer behavior there or the political kind of landscape and how people are thinking. I managed to develop a very big organization in China. And not only that, around 5 years ago, we've entered China with a home use device product. Write the name Tripolar. Order it already. We just got the approval for the FDA like 2 months ago, so you can start to order it online also in the US. But what I'm really happy to share with you is that our business in China is already, the consumer product is already at around a few hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're the #1 brand for consumer electronics for skin treatment, okay? So this is China. It's something which is for people who are at the age of 20-something to sub-30, okay? To kind of, it's a product for young people. And it's another aspect in terms of the international, okay? So to share with you, basically, I think that the education that I got managed to bring me to the ability to work in a very efficient and successful way in multiple geographies that are very, very different from one another, but also at multiple industries, from consumer products to medical device products to technology products. So each one of them, is very, very different, which brings me to the what the studies in Tel Aviv University, what they give you and why they're so important, this study. So Milet spoke a lot about the kind of the international aspect, okay? But the way I look at the international, what it does to you, it gives you the ability to think in multiple dimensions, to act in multiple dimensions. Okay, the international aspect is only one of them, to communicate in multiple dimensions, and to be very, very versatile and very, very agile. Okay, which means that not only that you can work later on in multiple geographies, but you can work and you can move from one industry to the other. You are very, very flexible. There is something about the fact that you have been exposed at a very, very, very early age to a group that is so diverse that actually opens your mind in a way that, you know, people are saying out of the box thinking. No, there is no box, okay? There is no box. You simply, because you understand and you realize that, you know, as the example that Mileta gave on the what is happiness, that every answer actually could be applicable. And once you understand that every answer could be applicable, then there is no box anymore. And then it translates within your, I would say, within your blood, within your genes, within your body, to be very, very flexible, not only in the way that you can communicate across multiple geographies, but more important even than that, in the way that you are thinking. Okay, so you're no longer thinking in kind of in one dimension, but you're thinking in a multiple dimension, because you've suddenly become able to accept that there are more answers than the answer that you were brought up to think about. Okay, so the answer of this is happiness is not necessarily the answer. It's the answer for you. It's maybe the answer of the people that you are now kind of playing, I don't know what video games with, but it's not the answer for everyone, okay? And I think that what it does, it opens in your mind a lot of flexibility, a lot of open-minded, that the way I look at it in today's world, that it keeps on changing the whole time. You need that. You need your mind to continue and evolve, and you need your mind to be all the time, you know, kind of be boundarless, okay? You need to remove the boundaries, because, you know, if you think about kind of how we were thinking about our parents, you know, how strict they are and kind of, and how they were thinking in one dimension, actually, we need to think in, it's a super multiple dimension, and we need to keep on changing the whole time. And the way I look at this international program is not necessarily about the things that you would learn, okay? The things that you would learn are great things, and you can learn them in every university, okay? The same porter will be taught in Tel Aviv University, in Berkeley, in Harvard, in Stanford. Everyone is using the same books. Everyone is using the same case studies. But what everyone is not doing is that they have the surrounding to be able to think about problems in a multiple ways, and understanding that there are 100 ways that leads to Rome, and there is no one single way that leads to Rome. So the first thing, you know, as I spoke about, was kind of the open-minded. The second thing that I think is very, very important that you would get through this international study is the ability to communicate in what I would call across different cultures. Okay, so I'll just use an example. Okay, this is an example that I think it was the first thing that I've learned. You know, when I started working kind of internationally, is that, for example, if you will tell someone in India that you want him to do something, okay, and he will tell you, and he reports to you, okay, and you will tell him, okay, I want to have this report, or I want you to focus on this cell, or I want you to do this or that or the other, and he says, okay, you know, you would assume that he agrees and he's gonna do it, okay. But for example, in India, the fact that he said okay means that his ears are open, and the voices that you took out of your mouth were going into his ears, and he heard it. That's it. It's a confirmation that the voice quality was okay. And it's nothing to do with whether he agrees to what he said, or whether he's going to do it, or anything like that. Okay. Now, this is very important, okay? And I'll just give you an example, another example. I was working in Japan, and we were giving kind of, we were doing the integration. It was really very intense, and I was kind of working with the teams, and I said to the Japanese team, what I want you to do by the end of the day is, meaning that at the end of the journey, this is what we want to kind of achieve, okay? Few days later, the head of HR calls me and says that the team is collapsing. They haven't slept for 3 nights because I told them that I want to have it by the end of the days. They've been working for 72 hours and they haven't yet finished. I said, yes, I didn't mean by the end of the, I meant, that if, at the end, this is where we want to take it. I didn't mean that it's not a one-day work, okay? Now, this is kind of, it's an example of, of communication in terms of the words, but also communication in terms of when you mean something, how people are being perceived. So I can share with you that after that example, everything I said in Japan, I asked them, okay, now describe to me in your own words what you understood, okay? And then they described it to me. And after they described it to me, I said, okay, now I'm going to write it down in the meeting. Now we're all going to look at it, and we're all going to see whether we understand the same thing, okay? Until we develop the communication. So I think that the communication and ability to communicate across different culture is extremely important at today's world. And it's, I think, Milet, is, as you've said it, I'm not saying that everyone needs to have an international career, but I think that even if you have, and even if you choose a local career, and even if you choose to work in a local environment, at the end of the day, your ability to function local would be much, much, much better if you have a global horizon. You will be able to think in a better way, you will be able to communicate in a better way, and you will be able to develop these sensors that even in your local environment would be much more delicate and much more sharp, because you're no longer within kind of the same boundaries that that you were. For me personally, I can only say that I do recommend an international career. I think it's at the end of the day, no matter what we do, the most fascinating thing in life is people. People are really amazing, and the more you come to know them across different kind of culture, it's more fascinating, and it's more fun. So I do recommend an international career. And I do think that it's an amazing thing. But even if you don't like an international career, I think you could be a much better, have better opportunities and enjoy more once you have international background. One more thing I wanted to say about Tel Aviv University. So the name is Tel Aviv University, which means that Tel Aviv University is based in Tel Aviv, okay? Which is based in Israel. I'm sure that if you have joined this call, you do all know that we are the country with the highest number of startups per population, the highest number of unicorn per population. So it's a company that a book was written about it by HBS, which is calling Israel Startup Nation, and it's a country, and especially Tel Aviv within the country is a very entrepreneurial country, very technology-oriented country, and I think that that would inject in each and every one of you this amazing qualities of entrepreneurship and of being digital and technology oriented, which I think that at the end of the day, what the purpose of studying is not to prepare you for the first 10 years of your career, but it is to prepare you for the rest of your life. And the time to kind of inject in you this DNA to be entrepreneur, to be able to be to come with ideas and to execute upon them, even if you do not want to kind of have your own startup, but it doesn't matter, in everything that you do in life, if you have the ability to come up with idea, to convince people to follow you and to execute upon your ideas on your personal life and on your professional life, it's a much, much, much better journey. And this is something that Israel can give you in general, and Tel Aviv can give you in more kind of in more specific way. You would see also in the video, Tel Aviv, I think, is kind of, it's ranked. I don't know actually if in the video or not, but if you will follow Time Out magazine, we are ranked here in Tel Aviv. I was born in Tel Aviv. I love the city. I adore it. I think it's an amazing city. But we are like part of the top 10 cities for food, top 10 cities for nightlife, top 10 city for fun. Like on every measurement of coolness, we are here to win. And you're going to have an amazing time here. So at the end of the day, we came to enjoy, not only to learn and to build an amazing career and life, but also to enjoy. And the faculty is amazing. The university is very welcoming to its students. The studies are fun, and the people, at the end of the day, the people, the atmosphere, the coolness, it's a lifetime experience that I don't think that I've ever heard of anyone who regretted coming to Israel and to this program. So I wish you lots of luck, and I'm really jealous at you that you're at the stage to start this amazing journey. So good luck.
Wow, Tzipi, thank you so much. If you weren't busy closing $1 billion deals, I'd be hiring you to my marketing team tomorrow.
Thank you.
We have a couple of openings.
Thank you.
But seriously, thank you. And I always enjoy hearing from you and people like you at your caliber, because you really represent to me exactly what Israelis are known for. And that it's smart, it's witty, you're approachable and to the point. And I think if we were to encapsulate you and many of our successful Israeli entrepreneurs, you did it very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So from here, we've heard perspectives on both international education from Milet Shamir, and we've heard the recommended steps for paving a global career with Tzipi. And now it's time to hear from Professor Ido Aharoni, our Global Distinguished Professor at NYU. And I'm just going to jump and describe a little bit of his professional CV, but it's almost impossible in the time that we have to list out Aharoni's complete track record. His career dates back to a 25-year stint in Israel's Foreign Service, and has achieved the position of Israel's longest-serving consul general between the years of 2010 to 2016, based all in New York. Aharoni also served under the late Foreign Minister Shimon Peres and was involved in the numerous back-channel negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians, which eventually led to the foundations of what is known today as the Oslo Accords. So Professor Aharoni was also pivotal in positioning Israel's public diplomacy strategies and introduced nation branding methods to Israel. So next to Tzipi, I think if anyone knows more about Tel Aviv and its brand, it's definitely Ido. So Ido, thank you for joining us today. Professor Aharoni, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I always forget to unmute myself. I apologize in advance that my connection here, for some reason, I don't know why today, decided to be a bit unstable. So I'd like to apologize in advance if my picture is getting frozen or if you can't hear my voice. Let me know or read if there's a problem. What I would like to do in the short time that I have is to address several things. The first is talk a little bit about why Israel. And I think that both Milet and Tzipi in their beautiful presentations highlighted the centrality of the issue of creativity. And so I'd like to start by saying a little bit, sharing a bit about the origins of Israeli creativity and what makes Israeli creativity unique, because there are many places in the world that are creative. We have people on the call from all over the world, and I can tell you that I spent years of my life in New York, in LA, in Boston, I know Toronto pretty well, and other cities. They're all creative, but what makes Israeli creativity so unique? And then I'd like to speak about, what makes globalization today in the age of hyperconnectivity different than globalization of post-World War II or even post the end of the Cold War. And lastly, I'd like to give you three personal tips, individual tips of my own, what it takes to be a global citizen today. So that's really my presentation. And I know that Ori told me that I have at least an hour and a half. So please be patient. No, I'm just kidding. I'll try to do it as briefly as I can because I know it's a long afternoon. I'd like to start with a little story. When I served as Israel's diplomat, Israel's chief representative in the most important city in the world, in my view, New York City, I thought it was my job to celebrate Israel's qualities. Now, that was not the training that I received in the Israeli Foreign Service. Israeli Foreign Service, and I know Milet's father was a very famous and successful ambassador in both Jordan and Egypt. And he will tell you that the first thing that they teach you in the Foreign Service is to become the best analyst that you can about the conflict in the Middle East. But believe it or not, it's what I learned at Tel Aviv University that convinced me that I should not follow that path, because my understanding of public diplomacy is that it's all about the celebration. My job was to make sure that a wonderful, charismatic leader like Tzipi is going to be successful. And my job was to celebrate Israeli creative spirit. So I can tell you that one of the highlights of my career was when I was asked several years ago to host in New York what is perhaps the most unique theater group in the whole world. It's a theater group that is based in Tel Aviv. It's called Nalagat. What makes this group so unique is the fact that its entire cast are members, actors and actresses that are both deaf and blind. They cannot hear a thing, they cannot see a thing. And yet, here they are on stage performing, entertaining. They're dancing, they're singing, and believe it or not, they're even baking bread on stage, and then they invite the audience to break bread with them. And the reason why I thought it was, and by the way, and they came to New York and they were a smashing success. They performed at NYU, they performed at the BAM in Brooklyn, Academy of Music. It was a huge success, and then they went on to perform in other places. People were blown away. We've never had any group that received just such coverage in the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine and so on. And it dawned on me, what was it that made them so special? Why people were so blown away by this group? Because think about it, how do they perform? They invented their own methodology, their own system in which members of the cast are cueing each other by tapping on them, touching them. That's why the group is called in Hebrew, Nalagat, which in English means, please do touch. And that's, imagine that throughout a 90-minute performance, they are cueing each other 1,500 times like that. And if one person misses one cue, it can derail the entire flow of the show. Now, that story encapsulates the story of Israeli creativity in general. Israeli creativity stems from a very long tradition of refusal to accept limitations. Those limitations can be intellectual, like in the case of the great scientists of Tel Aviv University. Those limitations can be physical. I don't know if you know that, those of you on the call who are not familiar with the history of the State of Israel, but when the State of Israel was founded, the number one threat, existential threat, was not necessarily military. It had a lot to do with lack of water. The fact that 75% of the land in this part of the world is arid land. And lack of water was perceived as the number one existential threat. Today, Israel is 100% independent when it comes to water production. Israel is capable of producing all the water that it needs. So the origins of Israeli creativity stem from the fact that first Israel faced an unprecedented degree and volume of threats and challenges, physical, intellectual, abstract, external, internal, and what have you. And secondly, from that very built-in, inherently critical element that is the tendency to try and find a solution to every problem. If you may, Israel is a nation of problem solvers, and I'm not saying it in any self-congratulatory fashion. I'm saying it only because it's the truth. This is what we had to face here, and this is how Israel became such a hub of creativity. Just to add to what Tzipi already, she mentioned Israel's prowess in the area of high tech, and it's true that Israel is sending the third largest contingent to NASDAQ. So I want you to think about it. A country of 9.3 million people has more companies traded on NASDAQ than the vast majority of countries in Europe. There's more companies traded on NASDAQ than countries that have, 1 billion plus population. Israel is producing more scientific papers per capita than any other nation. That's perhaps the most impressive part. Academically and scientifically, Israel is punching way above its weight. Collectively, if you look at the performance of all the research universities in Israel, we have 10 research universities. Israel is ranked number one in the world when you compare Israel even to countries like the United States or even smaller countries like Sweden or Switzerland and so on. So that's about the origins of Israeli creativity. A little bit about the connection with the mother brand, Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is very unique. It's a creation of the Zionist movement. Tel Aviv is a forward-looking brand, whereas many other locations in Israel are interested more in the past. Israel has great history to tell. Tel Aviv is more about the future. Tel Aviv is young, is vibrant, is bubbly. And Tel Aviv University, by definition, is the beacon sub-brand of Tel Aviv, the brand. Tel Aviv is a global city that is being celebrated all over the world. It's a hub not only of creativity, but also of inclusion and diversity. In the greater Tel Aviv area, we have tens of different ethnicities, tens of different languages regularly spoken. And I can tell you, as someone who's teaching at the business school, I've had students from all over the world, including from the Palestinian Authority, which I thought was a great opportunity to build a real bridge between Israel and its neighboring countries. What make today's globalization different than the globalization of the past? I would say in one simple term, hyperconnectivity. Hyperconnectivity is the ability to connect very, very quickly, is the ability to search, to participate, the rise of participatory culture. That's what making globalization so different today than it was. If in the old days you had to put in a physical effort to participate, then today participation is just one click away and people do take advantage. What does it mean in reality? It means that none of us can be viewed as a passive consumer. So the words that we all use, like a patient, a consumer, a voter, should all be replaced by a new term. We are all participants. We are all co-producers of content, of ideas. In Tzipi's world, those ideas are being monetized into profit or into operation. In Milet's world, those ideas are being transformed into ideas and theories and books and concepts and insights and lessons to be learned. But the fact that we all participate in something that is much bigger than all of us, I think that's what makes today's globalization so different. So what will it take for all of you to become global citizens. And I'll end later with my own story of how I became connected to the world of diplomacy. The first thing is to realize that post-COVID, the world is going to engage in a more collaborative form of international relations, in a more collaborative form of business. If I had to use one sentence to describe the impact of COVID-19, very similar, by the way, to the impact of World War II on humanity, collaboration creates a bigger pie. Collaboration creates a bigger pie, even collaboration between competitors. COVID-19 in many ways is a deeper and wider trauma than World War II because first it corresponded with a very deep fear of the unknown, existential fear. It really cultivated massive anxieties globally, and it touched every person on the face of this earth, which was not necessarily the case with World War II. Just as World War II produced multilateral diplomacy, COVID-19 will produce what we call flex economy, which is all about collaboration, engagement, cross-border partnerships, and so on. So that's the first tip that I have. A global citizen engages in partnerships and collaborations. The second thing, purpose and meaning are part of the bottom line. It's not enough just to make money. It's not enough just to achieve your goals. You know, people use in business all sorts of terminologies. It's no less important today to be in it to do good, to make sure that your company, that your enterprise, that your theory, that your idea, that your book, that your whatever it is that you're going to produce, that will make a positive contribution to the social bottom line. Companies today want to function as force for good. Governments today want to function as force for good. Look at who's trying to conquer new frontiers in space. It's not governments, private corporations. Look at who is now preoccupied with the issue of how to combat hunger. We're talking about business leaders, not necessarily politicians. So the idea of shifting from for-profit to for-purpose is already happening. It's actually happening in front of our eyes. And when you become a global citizen, you are by definition going to become part of that process. And lastly, the realization, and this is really the legacy of the great Edward de Bono. Those of you who don't know, Edward de Bono was born in Malta. He's one of the great thinkers that introduced the concept of creativity, not only to academic life, but also to business. He studied the origins of creativity. And one of the main insights that Edward de Bono shared with the world, and I believe that changed the world of business, is the realization that creativity is not necessarily a gift. That creativity is like a muscle. You have to flex the muscle in order for the muscle to work. And creativity, believe it or not, can be taught. And this is exactly what they teach at Tel Aviv University. When I joined the Foreign Service, a lot of people were surprised because I graduated from the Film and Television School at Tel Aviv University. I was, I think, the first diplomat in the history of the Israeli Foreign Service that studied film and TV. And I had a joint major with sociology and anthropology. And 90% of my fellow cadets came from either political science or international relations. I was a very rare bird in that class. And let me tell you, what I discovered is that you cannot effectively be a diplomat without, or you cannot even effectively be a military leader if you don't understand the importance of cultural sensitivities. And studying at Tel Aviv University, I was surrounded by people from all over the place. Studying social anthropology turned out to be the biggest asset for me as a diplomat. The ability to understand cultural sensitivities, the ability to listen to the other, the ability to understand that there is no high culture and low culture, that you have to respect every culture wherever you are. I think that's something that I learned at Tel Aviv University, and it really served me well as a diplomat. So thank you so much for your attention and patience, and thank you, my dear friends at Tel Aviv U, for inviting me to this panel. I'm a proud graduate. My kids went to Tel Aviv U. My wife did. My siblings did. Tel Aviv U is my family, and I'm very humbled and proud to serve on the Board of Governors of the university. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Professor Aharoni. Your words were very resonant, I have to say. Even today, we had earlier today a meeting on our brand at TAU, and I could put money on it that it sounded like you were actually in the room itself. Things like going beyond the limitations. We were talking about what makes us as TAU exceptional. And some of the things that we were talking about were exactly the things you mentioned. Going beyond the limitations and defying authority was something we talked about as a good thing. And the marriage between modern and historic, which is very reflective of Tel Aviv and Israel. And the diversity and the fact that you have so many roots and people from so many walks of life in Israel. It's a melting pot, but everyone still has their character, retains their character, and calls themselves Israeli. So this wonderful creative spirit that you touched upon really was, you could have easily been in our meeting this morning. So, so thank you again. And really, I think you were able to highlight the meaning of global collaboration and solidarity without the buzzwords. So great to have you. Before we move to the final section of our event, I'd like to thank you all, our speakers, for sharing your exceptional knowledge and providing clues onto the topic of global citizenship. I really think you've given us, or at least me, a sense of added optimism, especially in these times, and guidance on seeing modern day issues as opportunities. And I really hope that our participants feel the same. Thank you, Milet, Sipi, and Ido, for letting us really pick your brains today. It felt very real and informative. And before we go into the last speaker, which is Mr. David Ryan, I would like to mention that the event doesn't end just here. Although it's in the middle of the day for some of you, we'd like to invite you to an after-party session after David Ryan speaks, hosted on behalf of our Global MBA program. So in Israel, at least in Tel Aviv, there's always a reason for a party. And so from 6:30 p.m. Israel time, you'll be able to learn from a list of curated topics on innovation and entrepreneurship. And you'll have a program head, Ms. Jackie Goen. So make sure to stay for that last bit, and I will go into our last section, which is introducing David Ryan. David is our Global and Outreach and Recruitment Coordinator at Tel Aviv University International. He's based in our Israel office and works with our academic faculties to support our student prospects, learning to study at any stage and age in their academic careers, anywhere from short-term programs to full degrees, PhD and postdoc research positions. So anything you would really like to study, you name it, it is really possible here at TAU. And David will go into talking about it further. David's originally from Scotland. He has a degree in business studies and has a wealth of experience in marketing, public relations, and communications, especially in the hospitality and travel industries. Before joining TAU in 2019, David actually worked on the other side of international student recruitment, sending Israeli students to study abroad in the US and Europe. So thank you, David.
Wonderful. Thank you, Orit. Welcome, everyone. Before I begin, I'd just like to thank Professor Milet Shamir, Zipi Ozer Armon, and Ido Aharoni for being here and sharing their insights with us. It's been a delight. In a moment, I'll present TAU International and tell you a bit more about us and our range of English taught international programs. As Milet mentioned, we have a global campus here. Every year, we have about 2,000 international students study at TAU from all over the world. They come from over 100 countries, We have gap programs for high school graduates, undergraduate, grad programs, short-term programs, up to PhD and postdocs. So many students can come to us and matriculate their entire way through higher education. And in fact, many of them do just that. We believe that the best way to study is through experience. That's the basis of our local philosophy here, which we call Taoism, T-A-U, capital T-A-U-I-S-M. But rather than me explaining it to you, I think I'll begin by playing this short video, I think that sums up perfectly. So let me just share my screen. Okay. You can all see the screen? Yes.
Tel Aviv University International, the only place in the world where you can study Taoism. What is Taoism? Well, it's a local philosophy that says the best way to study is through experience. Understand with your head, learn with your feet. The best way to study a multicultural society is to live in one. Be ready with your elevator pitch. You never know who you'll meet on campus. If you want to learn the best marketing strategies, just go to the local market. Reading about the startup nation? Write your own chapter. Study literature in the place that inspired the bestseller of all time. You can't resolve a conflict until you witness one. At TAU, there is always room for more questions and 400 labs to find the answers. Come experience the wisdom of Taoism at Tel Aviv University International, where first-class education meets a second-to-none lifestyle.
Wonderful. Okay. Did you all spot Zippy, by the way, in the film? Good. Okay. You can all see my screen? Good. So now you've seen the Taoism video. Hopefully you've spotted Zippy. Zippy appeared in Taoism number 33, which is be ready with your elevator pitch because you never know who you're going to meet on campus. So welcome to Tel Aviv University. I'll just quickly, this gives a good snapshot of Tel Aviv University and who we are. We are Israel's largest and most comprehensive institution for higher education. We have one campus, it's 220 acres, just north of downtown Tel Aviv with lots of nice green spaces. We have 9 faculties, 125 schools and departments. Every faculty has their own building and library. We truly are a multidisciplinary institution of higher education. We have 400 labs on campus. We have roughly about 30,000 total students, and of them, 2,000 are international students. And as I mentioned earlier, they come from over 100 countries. Typically, we have students that come from North America, Latin America are also very popular, Asia and Australia also, but all corners of the world, as well as internationals from here in Tel Aviv, and also Israelis who want to study in English as well. Okay, so I won't go into all of them, but we're very proud of our rankings. As I said, we're Israel's largest and most comprehensive institution of higher education, and that makes us the #1 choice among Israeli students. We're a top 100 innovation university by Reuters. We're ranked 20th in the world in terms of scientific citations. We are the only non-US institution to make the top 10 list of schools producing VC-backed founders. And just recently in 2021, we were ranked 5th in the world for entrepreneurship, right after Stanford, MIT, UC Berkeley, and Harvard by Startup Genome. And we're the only non-US institution to make that list. So we're very, very proud of our ranks, everything we've achieved here. As I mentioned, we're a multidisciplinary institution of academic excellence. We have 130 research institutions and 40 labs to help you find the answers. We have world-class faculty with renowned professors. We have a vast range of research and teaching fields that create unique and fascinating connections between disciplines that are traditionally not connected to one another. And that provides infinite possibilities for academic creativity. Every year, our students perform up over 300,000 hours of community service. 55% of our campus population is women. And also just in May this year, the university set up its very first Equality and Diversity Commission, headed up by Professor Netta Ziv. And they're tasked with enhancing equality and diversity among the academic, faculty, administrative employees, and students. And live Tel Aviv. Of course, you get to you get to live in this wonderful city that we call Tel Aviv, and that leads me on to this perfect slide. So reasons why we love Tel Aviv. I think we should rename this perhaps reasons why you shouldn't love Tel Aviv, because there's so many reasons to love Tel Aviv. There really is, no excuse for not coming here. So yeah, you've seen, this is a great city. It's the capital of Mediterranean cool, 300 days of summer, about 16 kilometers of beaches. It's a very open place. It's very liberal. Culture in Tel Aviv is great. There's nice places to shop. There's nice places to eat, places to sit and have a cafe. It's a very cafe culture kind of city. You can sit outside, throughout all hours of the day and night. It's a very open city. Transportation in the city is amazing. We use Korkinet, which is the Hebrew word for scooters, to get everywhere. Okay. Oops. As I mentioned earlier, our graduates, they join an illustrious group of TAU alum, creating impact and legacy across the globe in different areas. And I've just realized that I don't have Zippy and Ido on the slide, so I apologize. I should have put them on. I won't go into all of them, but just a few key ones that I want to mention. Yota Motolenge, he's a very celebrated chef and author. He has about 6 delis and restaurants in London. He's a very well-known chef and author with a couple of books published. Professor Anit Sachi, she developed a new way to treat and prevent melanoma through a nano vaccine. We have Uri Levine, who was the founder of Waze. Here in Israel, everyone uses Waze to get anywhere. It's a GPS navigation system that was acquired by Google a couple of years ago for over $1 billion. So we hope that after your time, if you come to study with us, you'll be as successful in making an impact in your region and area of expertise and help us fly the flag for TAU. Of course, as a lead institution, we have very close links to industry through a number of collaborations and events. We have Remote, which is the Business Engagement Center. In summary, they identify, nurture, and transform TAU inventions into products. We have TAU Ventures, which is an academic venture capital fund, and they run programs for early stage technologies and offer partnerships with leading companies. We have the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center that's run by professionals from the industry to allow students to study entrepreneurship. We have Ignite by Collar, which is the entrepreneurship club from the Collar School of Management. It's a community for students and alumni to explore an entrepreneurial path as part of the on-campus experience. They do that through participating in events, engage with other entrepreneurs, sharing ideas, and creating new partnerships. And then, of course, we have some amazing events on campus. We have the annual Cyber Week, which has become internationally acclaimed as one of the top cybersecurity events in the world. It's a unique gathering of cybersecurity experts, industry leaders, startups, investors, academics, diplomats, and government officials. And we usually have about 9,000 attendees from over 80 countries on campus during the week. We also have the Artificial Intelligence Conference that first started with us in 2019. And that, again, it's to discuss diverse topics related to artificial intelligence, and also put innovation exhibition and also a hackathon as well. We just did Cyber Week, I think, in June this year, and Naftali Bennett was here and he officially opened the conference. It was the first time it was in person in 2 years. Okay, so let's take a deep dive into what's waiting for you program-wise and what do we offer here. So we have 60 programs in total. Undergraduate programs, as I mentioned, study abroad programs, graduate programs, master's programs, and also PhD and postdocs level. So we do have, you can matriculate your entire way through education with us. So so just jumping into study abroad. Study abroad, this is where students come to us as part of their degree at their home university, and they come and they spend a semester or a year with us and take part in our programming. And then at the end of the semester or the year, they go back to their home university and the credits get transferred. We offer a couple of programs. Academic Gap, that's for post-high school. So if high school graduates, they're not quite sure what they want to do, they can also come to us for a semester or for a year and, get their feet wet in academia, see what they like to do, and then eventually after a semester or a year, either enroll in our university or in another university in their home country. And the study abroad program, we have a couple of specialized tracks, specializing in entrepreneurship, innovation in business, exchange, the law program, and the exchange program. If you're not quite sure of the differences, there's a subtle difference between study abroad and exchange. Study abroad is for students from other universities to come to us. The exchange is also the same thing, but it's with universities that we have a agreement with, which is quite a long list. The study abroad also includes students who come from universities that don't have an agreement with us, or they're not students. Study abroad is welcome. They welcome applications for not just students, people who just want to come in and take part in our programming for the semester or for the year. Okay. So our undergraduate programs. So we offer at the moment 2, but soon to be 3. The third one will be announced within the next couple of days and will be published on our website. So they combine, first-class academics with eye-opening cultural and personal experiences. You can build a strong academic foundation in the first year and then specialize towards the end of the program in a tailor-made degree to suit your specific interests. So we offer the BA in Liberal Arts that Milette spearheaded a couple of years ago. That offers a strong foundation in a liberal arts education. It's a multidisciplinary program encompassing it all, crossing discipline boundaries with a broad selection of courses in humanities, social sciences, life sciences and entrepreneurship and innovation. Then we have the dual degree with Columbia University in New York, and that was new from 2020. So the first cohorts from last year are now going into their second year. That's also a dual liberal arts program, and this is a 4-year program. So students get to spend the first 2 years with us here at TAU, and then the final 2 years in Columbia. And then at the end, they get to graduate with 2 degrees from 2 leading institutions. And then we have our new program for 2021 that we're delighted to announce. This will be updated on our website within the next couple of days, I think. Our new double major, our international BA in management and liberal arts. Okay, so graduate programs, we offer a lot more graduate programs than undergraduate programs at the moment. But with the master's degrees, you can take a deep dive into your area of expertise. All of the programs combine a rigorous core curriculum and a diverse selection of electives. So you can really feel free to tailor your studies. We have regular guest lectures, campus activities, and excursions that will give you access to the cutting edge of research, innovation, and academics here in the non-stop city of Tel Aviv. We have programs across all the faculties. We have ancient Israel studies, where you get to study the land of the Bible in the land of the Bible. Conflict resolution will equip you with the tools for effective analysis and negotiation strategies. Environmental studies, we're better to study environmental studies than in the #1 green building in the Middle East. Cyber politics, which is a new program set up from 2020 that bridges strategic governance and policy with technology. And then, of course, we have a couple of MSc options in engineering, life sciences, medical sciences, and neurosciences. Neurosciences is new also from last year. We have the Parasol Foundation International LLM, which is a rigorous, highly academic LLM degree, attracting outstanding law students to study and collaborate with Israel's elite legal academia students and legal professionals. We have the Global Sophia MBA, which I have to mention because Lena, of course, it's a wonderful program, and Lena and Jackie are here to talk a bit more about it afterwards. But that's the flagship global MBA program of the College School of Management, covering new venture creation, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Documentary cinema, emergency and disaster management. The documentary cinema program, that's from the School of Arts, and we did a webinar in November last year where we invited Martin Scorsese. He attended the webinar and answered questions from students here at the school. It was very popular. And then we have a new music program that's due to open next year as well. So I think I've got time. I want just to quickly, before I continue, show you just 1 or 2 program videos. Just I think they'll give you a real taste of what's waiting for you here at TAU. So let me just this one. And this is one for environmental studies. Lead the next gen of green.
At Tel Aviv University, we investigate the causes and consequences of climate change, and we look for innovative solutions together with government bodies, public companies, startups, and more.
To save the depleting resources of our Earth, we develop new sources of energy, protein, and materials like plastic. All these from seaweed. Did you know that seaweed and algae do not require any agricultural land or fresh water to survive?
Production and consumption systems are complex. They are very important for our economy, but at the same time, they have huge environmental impacts. In industrial ecology, we try to understand their relationships with Mother Earth in an holistic way. In this program, I teach a course about industrial ecology tools and methods in business context.
Can plants become an environmental issue or rather the solution? We study both invasive plants that have negative impact on the environment, but also plants that can clean up polluted soils and therefore be beneficial to the environment.
In our lab, we develop materials and processes to reduce contaminants from the environment. One of the most fascinating research topics being investigated in our lab is environmental applications and implications of nanomaterials, which also includes nanoplastic.
Here, we research the timeliest issues, how climate change affects the transmission of infectious diseases. For example, how climate change can affect transmission of West Nile virus spread by mosquitoes.
Why are we facing a global ecological crisis? What if each of us would think on the repercussions of our lifestyle and the values underlying public policies?
The food we choose to eat and how it is produced has implications for the future of humanity. This choice affects the sustainability of our planet, the fabric of our society, and our health.
This is the International Master Program in Environmental Studies at Tel Aviv University. Here, you will learn from these experts on a wide range of environmental topics, unique and thought-provoking. You will experience the most innovative studies in this field in one accelerated year.
Let's lead the change in environment and sustainability and ensure a better life for us and the future generations.
Wonderful. And I don't know if you saw at the end of the film, there was a couple of shots of the actual Porter School of Environmental Studies that's been voted the #1 greenest building in the Middle East. It was built, I think, about 6 or 7 years ago, 2014, 2015. And sustainability was literally part of the foundation of how they built this building. And it's an amazing building, just adjacent to campus with amazing views as well. So these are our graduate programs. I just want to talk about short-term programs as well. We have short-term programs which cover the summer, which are mainly undergraduate level, summer graduate. We have language programs, and then we also have online programs as well. So summer programs, if you want to spend time in Israel in the summer and you're looking for a program or a course, then our summer programs are ideal for you. The students, they come from all walks of life, all backgrounds and cultures, all professionals. And you get to build lifelong connections while enjoying the summer in Tel Aviv. We have a couple of options: entrepreneurship, innovation, and business. Of course, it's part of the staple of Israel and TAU. I mentioned before about Cyber Week, but if you come to the fundamental technologies of cybersecurity, you'll be able to participate in Cyber Week on campus as part of the program. We have Smart Cities, which is about the electrification of cities, Middle Eastern studies, summer internship, and research program in the sciences as well. Okay. Just to go back to these ones, all of these are based at undergraduate level. Of course, you can be a graduate, that's not a problem. You can apply to these programs. Just bear in mind that the coursework is geared to an undergraduate level. We do also have a couple of graduate options in the summer: epidemiology, preventative medicine, food safety and security as well. All of our summer programs, they typically run, you can check our website, but usually June, July, or August is the time when all of them run. Online programs, so these were last year and this year we offered students the chance to earn academic credit with studying from home with our online courses. We all know that COVID and climate change are two of the most critical issues facing the world at the moment. So we offered these courses for you to take a chance to deep dive into these areas with these multidisciplinary online courses and gain credit as well. They typically lasted about 4 to 6 weeks. They were all online. We're not yet sure. We're hopeful to offer them again in 2022 for next year. But do check our website. You'll be able to see there if they're going to run. Also, of course, we have language programs as well throughout the year and in the summer. We have TACA, which is Taqdeed Qadam Academic, which is an academic to get your Hebrew up to an academic standard to then continue into study in a Hebrew top program. We've got Advanced English, which runs in the summer, and we have found a lot of students that will come and do this program to get their English up to then continue and study a undergraduate or graduate degree with us in English. Of course, we have Hebrew as well. We have Hebrew throughout the year. We have intensive Hebrews in the spring, in January, also in the summer, and then we also have Hebrew semester courses throughout the year, and the same with Arabic as well. And students can, if possible, as long as there's no clashes with their courses, can look into adding some Hebrew or Arabic options to their course. And then we have our Yiddish summer program that's very popular in the summer for 4 weeks in person. Their graduation ceremony, the end of program ceremony, is they often do a comedy skit on stage in Yiddish. And it's very funny. I've been to the last two times. I don't know what they're saying, but they all seem to be laughing, so I assume it's something very funny. So lots of language opportunities. Student Life Team, if there's one thing I want you to take away from tonight, in addition to the academic excellence that we have here, it's the Student Life Team. We call them our madrachim, which is the Hebrew word for guide or counselor. And they will welcome you. They'll be there from the moment you arrive. They give you a nice soft landing. They'll welcome you to the university, and they'll help you maximize your time here. They're on campus for support 24/7. They have one of them in the office every day. They actually all live in the dorms as well, and they have a 24/7 support number. So they're always available if you have any issues relating to anything, whether it's housing, medical, visa, or anything at all. They're the ones to go to. They do the arrivals and the orientations. This picture here is from one of the orientations events in Jaffa, I think. And they do lots of activities throughout the year. They'll do the arrival orientation in the dorms, pizza night in the park for all new students. They do day trips in Tel Aviv, day trips in Jerusalem, and then overnight excursions throughout Israel, from the north to the south. And all of them are Israelis, and they're all post-army, studying either their first or their second degree. And of course, we have accommodation on site. This is the Broshim dorms, our new student dorms, which is literally adjacent to campus. 5 minutes walk from campus, 24-hour security, health insurance, doctor's office on campus. There's a food court and supermarket in walking distance. We don't offer meal plans, but all of the student dorms have kitchens and lots of nice places to buy food close by. Some general FAQs, I won't go into all of them. If you do have any questions, by the way, feel free to pop it into the Q&A or into the chat function. I've got a few minutes before I hand over to Jackie and to Lena. Application requirements, that's all listed on our website. You'll see it there. It's very simple and easy to follow. To apply to one of our programs, you simply open up a profile in our portal. I'll show you quickly before I finish. Application deadlines, we're due to open by tomorrow. I believe all of our graduate degree programs will be available to apply for next year, for 2022 to 2023. It's very safe to live in Tel Aviv, despite what you may have heard or seen. Personal safety and security here it's amazing. The crime levels are very, very low if you compare them to other, European countries or American countries. All of our tuition details are on our website. It tells you what the tuition is for each of the programs, what it includes. We also have a scholarships page on our website that I do recommend you do at least check out. We listed all of the scholarships that we're offering, and also sometimes there are special scholarships that are regional based or program based, and we tend to try to list them there, so please do check there. I will just quickly, I just want to show you on our website how to apply to a program. Oops. So all you do is when you go to our website, you can just browse through all of our programs here. You can go to our degree navigator here, which is our program lobby, and that tells you all of the programs that we offer. It's very simple. You just go into it, and within each of the program pages, you'll see details of the program. This will be updated once they're opened up for applications for next year. And then if you want to find out more information, you fill in this box. If you want to apply to the program already, you just click here via the online portal, and you create a profile here, and that then begins the application process. So very, very simple. Just to go back to our presentation, we have amazing student testimonials on our website. We have lots of student testimonials. Also on our YouTube channel, we have a lot of video testimonials from students, back to campus videos from students that we filmed here on campus a couple of months ago when the campus was opened up. So I do recommend, if you have time, to to go there and to watch them. And yeah, discover your path to non-stop discovery at Tel Aviv University International. I think that's me a little bit over. I'm sorry. I will hand over now to Jackie Gorin, the head of the Sophia Global MBA, who's joined by a couple of alums, and also her global recruitment lead, Lena, as well. So welcome, Jackie and Lena, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Gorin, and first of all, I want to introduce Lena Billman, the head of recruiting of our program. She's sitting just opposite of me. This is why I'm waving my hands. It's something that we do here in Israel. And also two of our alumni that like us, I guess, and we're willing to join this session. Lee Setti, who is an alumni and also was my student in 2 courses, actually. She graduated in 2020, and actually I think that she experienced moving from face-to-face regular MBA into Zoom or zooming in MBA, and I would love to hear a little bit about the experience. And Max Donsky, he's here at the top in my picture, who is alumni of 2021, and he actually experienced doing a full Zoom, but not really Zoom, MBA program at the Sofer Global MBA during the Corona period. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Jackie Gorin. I'm a faculty member at the Scholar Business School, Tel Aviv University. I'm also, like many of the speakers here, a graduate of the Tel Aviv University. Actually, I did 2 degrees here. My BA in law and my MBA here at the Scholar Business School. I also have a BA in medical studies from the Hebrew University, but that was many, many years ago. My career was not academic, like many of the speakers. In the last 30 years, actually, I was chasing unicorns. For 15 years, I was managing actually the first corporate VC here in Israel. And I invested a fund of $120 million in 18 companies and 6 fund of funds. After which I continued to invest, but this time I moved into impact. and I established the first impact fund here in Israel that was called Yozma. And if you come and join us here at the software program, so I will tell you all about it. Actually, I joined this program as it had just 2 months ago, not a very long time ago. And when I was asked to join, actually the thing that bothered me was the fact that this program is a face-to-face program. And I was thinking of the value of a face-to-face program in the post-corona era. It took me a few days to be convinced, and I hope that after this session, you will be convinced as well that it's worthwhile to do your MBA here in Tel Aviv University at the SOFA Global MBA program, and to take the year off in doing it here in Israel. The advantage of starting late, this after party, is that many people spoke before me. And actually, a lot of the questions that I wanted to tackle were already answered. I think Milet and the other speakers were very convincing about why Tel Aviv and why Tel Aviv University and why Israel. So I'm not going to touch upon these issues. And the question that I would like to discuss with you in short is why face-to-face MBA today, and not just doing like an online MBA, which a lot of programs are offering. And I'm going to do it through a research that I'm going to share with you, and then some testimonials of Lee and Max that joined us. And after which, Lena will talk a little bit more about the program itself, and if you will have any other questions, so you can write it, or we can give you our information and you can be in touch with us afterwards. So Lena, if you can please share the presentation that we prepared very quickly. The next slide. Just a minute. Okay. Just a second. Okay, so as I said before, the question is, should we go face-to-face or should we stay online? What do you think? I don't know how many of you are here, but if you are here and you are able to open this connection, I would love to see what you have to say. And Lena, if you can share the screen with us and see if anybody's participating.
Not yet.
Not yet. So we'll give it a few more minutes. Oh, seconds.
Somebody's typing.
Somebody's typing.
We got first face-to-face.
What?
We got the first one face-to-face.
Ah, why face-to-face? Did you mention?
Face-to-face with 2 exclamation marks.
Okay, face-to-face with 2 exclamation marks. Okay, we didn't bribe you or anything, right? Okay, so I don't see many of you participating. I guess you're tired by now. But we asked this question ourselves, and a lot of the answers that are, I guess, that you would have shared with us if you were sharing with us are pretty obvious. But I wanted to see it from a scientific point of view, and I looked for research to see what researchers are saying about the value of face-to-face interaction in the post-corona era. And the research that I would like to use was written by Robert Hodgberg and Michael Watkins at the Harvard Business Report last January. And the question that they were asking is, when do we really need face-to-face interaction? That was the question that they were asking. And according, if we can go to the next slide. So based on years of research, according to Holberg and Watkins, there are 4 dimensions of any company that can predict and tell if it has an impactful management. And the 4 predictions are collaboration, the fact that the people within the company are collaborating with each other, innovation, the ability of the company to be innovative, acculturation, which means that the company has a culture, and dedication, the ability of the people within the company to be dedicated to the work that they're doing within the company. And I put here a picture of two of my favorite musicians, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And you see them sitting next to each other and creating some of the best songs in the world. And actually, I think that a lot of the attributes that contribute to a successful company, which mean collaboration, innovation, acculturation, and dedication, can be seen in this picture and in the cooperation between these people. So I think it's pretty intuitive to all of us that these are the kind of things that we are doing face-to-face. I mean, can you imagine songs like the Beatles being written on Zoom? Personally, I cannot imagine that. Can you move to the next slide? When the two researchers try to understand what are the drivers, what are the design drivers, how can you design a company or design an environment that will create an atmosphere of collaboration, innovation, acculturation, and dedication, they came up with 5 design drivers. But before I go to the design drivers, I would like all of us to see this picture on the right, which I really love. I don't know if you saw it during the corona, but this is a picture of a woman that was interviewed in the television, and she posted on her Facebook how the environment of her home while she was interviewing looked like. And this is the kind of environment that we all had during the corona times. And just think, when we think about the 5 design drivers, whether or not this kind of environment can contribute to any of these drivers. And the drivers that were mentioned in the article are purposeful focus. When we are physically together, it is more difficult to give it all, to all kinds of distractions like we see in this picture. Group dynamic operate much more effectively to reinforce focus in face-to-face interaction. And it is easier to our colleagues to keep us focused as well as to keep each other on task. The other driver is interpersonal bonding. And that's quite obvious that interpersonal bonding are much easier when we do it face-to-face. And even before Corona or right after Corona, the first thing that most of us did is going on a plane and meeting our colleagues, understanding that the gap that we experienced for 2 years of not meeting people face-to-face harmed the interpersonal bonding that are so necessary for us. The third thing is deep learning. In order for a company to be innovative, in order for a program to be innovative, in order for students to become innovative, we need to experience deep learning and get understanding of ideas. In our case, in business school, things like return on equity, agile, pivot, etc., etc. And deep learning means wrestling with those concepts, debating when and how they are useful, and understanding how subtle differences in context influence their applications. So deep learning is also something that you do face-to-face. Experimentation, and we talked a lot about Tau International being a hands-on experimental environment, and I think that our program, and we talked a little bit about it further, is all about experimentation. And actually, experimentation is a prediction to a successful of a company, a successful of a product. Because when you do experimentation, it means that you are in an environment that allows experimentation, that supports you, that keeps you safe, and you are able to test ideas and concepts before you actually go live, which makes your company, your program, your experience much more successful. And last but not least, and I think very, very important, is what they called structured serendipity. And I think that this picture is nothing but a structured serendipity. I think the people that experienced learning in Zoom experienced the lack of structural serendipity. And I believe that a face-to-face learning actually allows it when we are in an environment that is all dedicated to studies and we don't have disruptions while we are doing it. So this is from academic point of view, actually maybe stating the obvious, but I just wanted to put the infrastructure of why I believe that it's not only about Tel Aviv and about Tau and about Israel, but it's also about the face-to-face experience that we here in the SOFA Global MBA program are offering. So what is the SOFA Global MBA? After this introduction. So this is before we go to the movie. You already put the movie? Oh, okay, just before that, I just wanted to look at this picture. Okay, so this picture is actually, it's not from Getty, it's a picture of our students during Corona times studying. At the background, you see the view of Tel Aviv. You see the students sitting distance from each other with their face masks. And actually, all through the Corona period, the students at the SOFA Global MBA studied together while making sure that they're not too close to each other, but we never surrounded to a full Zoom experience in our program because of all the important things that we mentioned before, the purposeful focus, the interpersonal bonding, the deep learning, the experimentation, and the structured serendipity. So let me tell you a little bit about this program. Sure. So the SOFA program is a one-year full-time MBA in English that focuses on venture innovation and entrepreneurship. I need to say we are super selective and diverse. Our class size is limited to ensure personalized learning journey and exclusive experience intimately connected to the startup nation. For example, this year we have only 40 students in our cohort, but it's a very diverse cohort and we have students from 22 different countries from all over the world. We take a hands-on approach to everything we do, and we give our students the opportunity not only to learn about entrepreneurship and innovation and new venture creation and consulting, and not only to meet people that are doing it and learn from them and get inspired by them, but actually to get their sleeves up and do. We have a few courses, I will elaborate on one in a bit, that are simulating accelerators and incubators that are allowing you actually to take your ideas and to promote it into a stage that can either win a competition or raise money or create an impact in the world. If you're interested in management consulting, we have a program, I will elaborate on it, which is actually a consulting firm within the faculty. If you want to get to know the Israeli startup nation ecosystem, it's not a visit of a week, but it's actually 2 months of fellowship in which you spend 2 days a week within this ecosystem, working for this company and getting to know them really, really closely, et cetera, et cetera. So all of our experience is a hands-on experience, which is also emerged within the ecosystem of the Tau University, and you're sharing a lot of the experiences with other Tau international students, as well as of the regular MBA students within the Kohler Business School in the Tel Aviv University. Next one. This slide, I don't know if I need to repeat it because all of it was said before. I would say that many of the attributes of Tel Aviv University actually has a lot to do with the business school. So I'm not taking, the credit, but I think that the business school has a lot to do with it. And it's also super important, all of these credits, especially when we talk about MBA that's focused on entrepreneurship, innovation, and venture creation. Next. So our approach here at the SOFA Global MBA. We call it the sandbox approach. And I know that usually when we look at a sandbox, we think about, kids playing. But actually, if you go to the Webster dictionary and you look at sandbox and the meaning of sandbox when we talk about computer science, so we're talking about testing environment in a computer system in which new or untested software can be run securely. And this is exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to allow you to test your concepts, your ideas, your imagination in an environment that simulates reality, but in a secure and safe environment in which you can learn, and after that you can go and grow it in the real world. I think maybe this is the time to stop the presentation and share the screen again. Okay. Just a second. Yeah, and maybe it's time to let our alumni, Lee and Max, to share some of their experiences. So maybe I will start with you, Lee, starting, face to face and moving online. How was the experience for you?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks, Jackie. Really happy to share. I did the MBA about 2 years ago. And like Jackie said, it was mostly in person. And then we got hit by Corona. We didn't know what it was and got moved the rest of the half year to Zoom. And I definitely think that there's benefits of both, as probably we've all seen in our everyday lives. But the fact that I started in person really helped me to gain those connections and people and really live the sandbox approach that Jackie mentioned before. And if I had to choose today, I would never go back on Zoom. I would only go in person because I think there's just so much value and so much charm in meeting the people in this program when you're in such a small class and everybody's coming from a different background and you're actually working on projects that have impact together. Face-to-face makes sense. If you're wanting to kind of work and in the meantime and learn little things that maybe a YouTube video could suffice for, then Zoom. But if you really want to gain that value of working together and kind of doing things as a team, then in person was really way better. And I'm so happy that I had that experience, because when we did shift to Zoom, I was able to keep that connection with my classmates. And the second that we were allowed to see each other, we ran to each other and worked on projects together in person. So I think a mix of both is always good. And I'm sure there will be some hybrid element, but definitely keeping it in person for me is always better. And I'm sure most people that were in my class could agree. And I did take a lot of those classes that Jackie mentioned before that are very hands-on, where you're starting a startup with your classmates, you're kind of solving issues and working together with maybe people from other, like the Israeli MBA or other schools and things like that. And you do have that kind of power of collaboration and exposure to people that you might not have had otherwise, and on Zoom even less. I'm happy to kind of expand and share more, Jackie, whatever you think is best.
Okay, thank you, Lee. In a minute, I'll ask you about specific courses, but Max.
Yeah, happy to chime in as well, and nice to see some familiar faces. Again, I completed the MBA last year during the pandemic, where we started off, and we had a lot of opportunities in person, but then as the pandemic sort of picked up in Israel, we did have some periods where it was, online, but it was only for about a month or two. And we kind of had this hybrid environment for a lot of the year, which was actually, it was really interesting, but I have to say there's nothing like being in person. And I think, kind of just to echo what Lee said, when you're in such an intimate program with so many, diverse backgrounds and so many smart people that have so much to offer, there's really nothing that can replicate being in these in-person practical environments. And, I think an MBA is really important because the biggest takeaways from it are really just the people, collaboration, and obviously the academic side is extremely valuable. But, anyone can take a finance course online. You can watch videos, you can teach yourself a lot of that core content, but there's something to be said about teamwork and in person and working with people, like I mentioned, from diverse backgrounds that really can't be, replicated. And I'm sure we'll talk about some courses as we, continue in this dialogue. But just to mention, there's a course called Propel, where, as was previously mentioned, I believe, it's sort of like an accelerator or incubator where you have about 14 weeks. There's a problem that's proposed by two really experienced, knowledgeable professors, Rebecca and Tamar, and our theme was health. So for 14 weeks, we get paired up with our classmates along with design students from another university in Israel called Shankar. And it was an awesome opportunity just to work, with different people, solve a problem. And in 14 weeks, you watch something come from an idea to almost a business. And we did this in person during a pandemic where we had all these brainstorming sessions, and every week provided us with a new workshop, which was, again, just so much more valuable and beneficial in person. So again, happy to talk more about that.
Yeah, please. Maybe that's the time to talk about it. So can you share the idea that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the theme for this past year's Propel course, which is one of the experiential learning courses part of the SOFR MBA, was, like I mentioned, to health. So everyone in the first, 2-3 weeks of the program started off brainstorming different ideas, and we were all spitballing ideas. We were in workshops and going through a lot of different things of what the, top health issues are, what are things that we experience. And, we ended up then splitting into teams where everyone picks the different issues that they are passionate about, whether it was, fitness or health or eating or, eyes or, cancers, many different types of health issues that were very, wide ranging in scope. And my group ended up working on a problem where we were dealing with ears, eyes, and nose, but we really focused on the eyes, and the issue was detecting eye problems and vision problems in children at a very early age, because we developed through our research. And again, not to get too technical and into it, but our research kind of showed us through this course, from what we'd learned about looking into research, creating ideas and solving a strategic problem, that there's a really big gap in the industry with optometrists, where young kids don't really get eye exams until the age of about 2 years old or so. So that during that time, it's really hard for parents to detect eye issues ranging from amblyopia or lazy eyes, or potentially even being colorblind. So we created actually a book and almost like a toolkit where our designer, which again, this is the huge value add of working with the other universities, he created all these visuals and put together this book for us with our content that we were planning, and actually had conversations with hospitals in Israel and in Toronto, where I'm from, to actually get this circulated. So it's something that we still are in talks with and have been working on. But that was just a really awesome experience of working with people in person, and just essentially starting from an idea and watching something come to fruition.
Amazing, Max. Thank you. This year's topic is actually the future of work.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Amazing. And Lee, if we're talking about specific courses, so I know that you did Propel as well, but if you can elaborate a little bit about your experience in the GBS program.
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed the GBS. That's Global Business Studies, I think is I don't know how much we know about the class, but it's basically a consulting course. I think Jackie mentioned a little bit before, where you're on a team of, 8-10 people from the Israeli MBA, from the SOFR MBA, and also from schools in New York and Canada, where you're essentially working together to solve business problems for Israeli and international companies. So it's a 6-month program. You're kind of with a team that you're working with from the beginning to the end. And it's very hands-on, and you're presenting to the client, which gives you a lot of kind of exposure. I, in the end, ended up working for my client for a little bit. So it really helps you to get
something without disclosing things that you cannot tell about your client and the project that you did.
Yeah, I'm thinking what I can disclose, but our client was really focused on growth, and they had to grow really fast. And the problem we were trying to solve for them is, Can I say the name? It's called Need Digital. So it's a fashion tech kind of digital printing company here in Israel. And they're really growing like crazy, have a lot of fashion shows, have a lot of kind of products they're coming out with. And we help them to create a new product that hopefully they are going to roll out soon to kind of increase their growth and help them kind of take a new path. So what we did there was go in and kind of speak to different people, the VP of Business Development, VP of Marketing, all kind of around departments, hear what they were up to, hear their challenges, and work together to solve that. So it was a lot of hands-on interviewing people, which what I liked, and then there's a lot of the crunching numbers research side, and then it comes to ideation. So that class is kind of divided into different phases. One where you're learning and you're researching, another where you come up with initial ideas to solve the problem, then you narrow it down and really build a business plan and implementation plan for the client. And each kind of phase you're presenting to them and getting feedback. And always kind of every 2 weeks, we had a meeting with our client to see how we were doing and bring in new ideas. So it's very much hands-on course, like I said, and a lot of time focus, but really good time because you really do build those connections with your colleague and across different MBA programs. So now I have people in Canada and New York and in Israel and people that I wouldn't have had otherwise in the MBA. So I really did enjoy that experience. I don't know if I can go more into detail or if there's any questions, happy to answer.
Ellie, thank you so much. So because we don't have much time, so I think maybe it's time now to move to Lena with the head of recruiting for the program. And she will share with you some more practical recommendations and the process that she recommends you to do if you want to join this program after what you've heard. Thank you so much, Max and Lee and Lena.
Yes, I also want to thank you guys. It's always great to see alumna. Like we haven't met with Lee in person, but I do appreciate all your help and support to our candidates. And Max, yeah, thanks. It's really great to see you again, and I hope. I hope, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so we'll go back to this structure. Yeah, so it's great to see you even like on Zoom, though we're really for face-to-face, but hopefully one day we can have a reunion here and you'll be able to join us all back for the alumni event.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and hope that is coming sooner than later.
It's always a pleasure. And before we proceed to the application process, just want to say one more word about the background. That's actually our campus. And you can see that's huge, it's green, you would hear the sound, you would hear a lot of birds on the background. And I think I'm coming from the place where we have only 30 days of sun in the year, which is St. Petersburg. And that's why when you're coming from the country with the snow, you really enjoy the sun every day. And I know in some countries it's already snowing now, but for example, most of us yesterday, it was a day off, we went to the beach and some people even were swimming in the sea. And you can see the sea from campus, and I think it's one of the most amazing things. So let me share again my screen. I'll just briefly describe the application process, and you will feel free to ask me any questions, because I know that some of our students who are applying with us now today, because we got this portal opened yesterday, so you can start the application now. And basically how the process goes, so usually we will start with the Zoom with me like this. I can choose and change the backgrounds up to your wish, so you can see different sides of Tel Aviv maybe and the campus. It would be great to see your CV so we can start from there. And then definitely I will provide you as much possible information as possible, and definitely get in touch with our alumni, our links, our website, LinkedIn page, so whatever you feel to get some extra sources of information. And then as David showed you earlier, you just open the portal within the TAO International. It's pretty intuitive. You just need to complete the application form, upload all the documents, and after maybe a week or two, depending on the time scale that we'll have at that moment, you will have the interview with the head of the program. and hopefully it will all go well. I assume that those who are here now with us really motivated and they started the preparation process right now, so you would obviously get the acceptance letter. And then you will have to make up your minds. You will have like 2 weeks before like signing the letter of agreement and going with all the formalities and actually becoming the part of our pre-MBA community. And becoming part of our pre-MBA community means that actually you start your journey. You will get to know the rest of the team. You will start already working on your individual development plan. You will be in touch with our career management center, which Jackie partially mentioned, that part of our program is fellowship. And I think that's also what was mentioned by CP and other people, that it's really important, like hands-on, and you can experience the Israeli ecosystem and to know about the Startup Nation, not only from the very, very famous book that actually all of our students are going to get, but all actually experience this ecosystem in person. Some numbers, of course, were in the MA program. So the numbers, we have 3 deadlines, December 30th, then April 14th, and June 30th. We would recommend to apply at your earliest convenience, because I think also it's a matter of getting money from our scholarship fund. So in case you really want this, it would be better to apply earlier. And also each year we aim to have like 40-50 students, because we believe that's a perfect size for our program. So you would have enough room for interaction and networking, but at the same time, you wouldn't be lost within the university, within the school. It would be still pretty individual. And then we have the list of required documents. It's pretty basic, so you just can have a look. I'm not going to comment on this. Yeah, transcripts, CV, English, GMAT, admissions interview, application fee. And you will have me and my assistant definitely helping you in each step of your way. So you won't be lost, you will be following what's happening. And yeah, at any moment you can ask me a question. Usually we correspond via email, Zoom, or WhatsApp. And it doesn't matter that you can be in the other part of the world. We still manage to get in touch. And the main goal to see here in person. I guess it's time to maybe answer your question, but before we proceed to this, just I want to add one more point to Jackie's presentation, why it's important to be face-to-face and see Tower International announced us like an after party. So actually, we have some, like, yeah, I'll try and do that. Yeah, Kava, we have some champagne. So me and Jackie will start, and we hope that you will join us in October. And we will definitely continue. So everyone who's watching this now and join us will get a bottle of champagne. It's not me who's promising this, that's the head of the program promising this. So yeah, I guess that's it. So we will happy to answer your questions and of course to see you in person, because for us, it's like the most exciting moment. Like this year when I met everybody who came from 22 countries at the lobby of Rick and Nancy building, I think that was like the highlight of the whole recruiting process for me. So welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Lena. And I guess that if you don't have any further questions,
so we have something in the chat.
We have something in the chat. Let's see.
It's anthropology, horology, yeah. Okay, I will transfer your question to the coordinator of this program, Matt, and we'll get an answer for you. If you leave an email, we'll be happy to get in touch.
Okay, so thank you so much for staying to our after party and joining our after party. We are here for any further questions. We know that this is not an easy decision to make, but we are here to answer all your questions and to share more experiences with you. And we really do hope to see you in our next cohort. So thank you and good night. Good afternoon.
Yeah, have a great week, everybody. Bye.